Hello, everybody. Ignatius Jackson, CPA here with another awesome video for you. So today's topic, we're talking about retirement accounts, IRAs, things of that nature, and we're specifically talking about some IRA statistics. So we're going to touch on ways that you can go out there and look and see, who's making what, who's doing what, et cetera, because they release quite a bit of data. Now, this is not taxpayer specific. This is just overall general statistics, and so there's going to be some interesting stuff that you're going to find out here today. So stick around, stay tuned. We'll be right back in a second. All right, everybody, and we're back. So again, today's topic, we're talking about tax statistics and what that all means and all that good stuff. And so we're going to show you how you can go out there and look up some information yourself if you want to be kind of nerdy like I am, and kind of just see what's out there, how many tax returns are being filed, how much people make, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of awesome information that's available. And again, anybody can go out there and access this. It's publicly available. And so just wanted to kind of touch on that and let you guys know, if you didn't know, that this does exist. So I'm all about information, I'm all about facts, and I'm all about, people understanding everything themselves and where stuff comes from. And so let's hop right in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, so this is the IRS website. irs.gov/statistics. Okay. Now on here, they publish all these things. Look at this: information about businesses, information about individuals, information about charitable organizations, statistics by tax return. A whole bunch of information is on this website. So if you've ever been interested in learning about what people do and what's kind of out there and what's available, you can come on here and you can get into here and look at a bunch of awesome statistics. So, and we're going to go through a few that I deem to be, important statistics here, and talk through some of those. But there's plenty of more out there that you can go out there and get and look at yourself. Okay. So, first thing that we want to talk about today is going to be IRA plans, filing status, and gender. So this is a statistic. This is from 2018. All right. And just keep in mind that, the data is not current, right? So it's usually like a 2-year lag. And they do that to give people time to file all their returns, because a lot of people are late. A lot of returns, are filed by this time frame. And so that's usually when they release the data on that particular year. Okay. And so ultimately what this shows is there are 208 million taxpayers. Okay, of those, 100 million are men, 108 million are women, 13 million are married filing joint returns, and 96 million are single or married filing separate or head of household. Okay, that's essentially what the non-joint returns means. So that's a pretty interesting statistic all by itself. If you think about it, 208 million taxpayers, and 112 million of those returns, 113 million if we're rounding, were filing as joint taxpayers. Pretty interesting if you think about it. I actually would have thought that number would have been a little bit lower. I thought it would have been in the inverse, where we had more non-joint filers than we had joint filers, but apparently that's not the case. So of those taxpayers, as you can see, we have 161 million that were eligible to make IRA contributions based off their income limits, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now, total contributions. Let's take a look at this. All right. Of those 161 million that were able to, only 14 million did make contributions. That is unfortunately a sad statistic. I wish that number was a lot larger. We have to start thinking about our futures and our retirement. And, each year these statistics come out and it's kind of the same story year after year. There's just not a lot of people making contributions to their retirement accounts, and it's something that's available for you. It's there. So hopefully, you know, some people see this and they start to think about, man, I really got to take advantage of this, because it's ultimately, you know, driving a lot of potential issues in the future where people may not have the ability to retire. So I would never expect this to be 100%, but you know, I would hope we could at least get to 50%. But right now we're, I don't even know what that equates to. Let's see. So we're talking about 9% is all that is. Only 9% of people actually contribute to retirement accounts. Now, hopefully, the one thing this does not include, I'll be honest, is 401ks. So hopefully this number is larger if we were to include people who were contributing to 401ks. So keep in mind, this is just for IRAs, but there are certain, you know, 401k plans and other type of retirement plans at people's jobs. So hopefully this number is a lot better once you get to that level. But also keep in mind, you know, even if you contribute at your job, you might be eligible to contribute into an IRA. May not be able to get a deduction for it, but you can typically contribute into an IRA in addition to what you do at your job. Whether it's a Roth IRA or a non-deductible IRA contribution, one of those two. Okay, so something to kind of keep in mind and think about, that you can still potentially get a IRA contribution even if you have a plan at work. All right, rollovers. Okay, not that important, but Roth conversions is another statistic. Okay, now this is interesting. Only 723,000 people did Roth conversions, 13 for a total of $13 million. Seems to me like there's more men than women doing that. If you can look at these numbers, it seems like there's a lot more men than women that are doing Roth conversions. Why that is, I have no idea, but that is necessarily the case. Okay, sitting in retirement IRAs in total, the fair market value of these accounts, $9 trillion. $9 trillion. And I apologize, I think I might have said the wrong amounts for some of these, but total contributions was not 70 million, it's 70 billion. Hopefully I said that right the first time, I can't remember, but just want to correct myself, 70 billion. So the amounts are in thousands of dollars. So that means this is 9 trillion, this is 70 billion. And the Roth conversions is 14 billion, okay? It's quite remarkable. The $9 trillion is sitting inside of retirement accounts. If you think about that, that's a pretty large number, okay? And it's not quite as of a disparity as you might think. We're gonna go to another statistic here that shows a breakdown based on income. So it's not quite the disparity that you might think. And it kind of debunks some stuff that Probublica and some other organizations are saying about the unfair nature of Roth conversions and Roth IRAs and things like that. So we're going to get into that here in a second. But these are just interesting statistics. And so yeah, I hope you guys can kind of see that, hey, IRAs are a great tool. There's a lot of people that are taking advantage of them. 61 million total accounts. All right, number of taxpayers with an IRA, 61 million total. Okay. That's a lot better than the 14 million taxpayers that made contributions. So it seems like a lot more people have IRAs. They're just not necessarily making contributions to them. Okay. So a lot of people just have IRAs that are there and they're not really putting much more into them. So this number is a lot better to me that we actually have 61 million people that actually have an account. Okay. So let's hop to our next topic that I wanted to cover, which is about age. So in terms of age, here's something interesting. I talk about this all the time, paying your kids, and putting money into a Roth IRA. Well, apparently some people are getting that hint and getting that down. Look at this, under 15, there are 12,000 taxpayers under 15 for a total of $174 million sitting in a Roth IRA. What do you think about that? Huh, pretty cool, huh? Interesting. Total contributions to Roth IRAs, 14,000 taxpayers for a total of $45 million. Pretty sweet. Look at this. I'm loving this. So this goes directly to the strategy that we talk about all the time regarding paying your kids. And then once you pay your kids, putting some money into a Roth IRA. You could even do this if your kid, works at a Fry's or, babysits or, any earned income would count to where you can put money into a Roth IRA. So there's a lot of opportunities to do this. And doesn't necessarily have to come from the kid. You can just give them the money, in addition, based on their earned income, to put it into the Roth IRA. So keep that in mind. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the kid's actual earnings. They just have to have earnings, right? The IRS doesn't know, or nobody knows where the money actually comes from. So, but in order to contribute, you just have to have that earned income available to you. And once you have that available, so if you make $5,000, you can put $5,000 into a Roth IRA. And so this is pretty cool. I actually love seeing the statistic. Now, 15 under 20, all right, we have about 94,000 Roth IRAs and 27,000 traditional IRAs. I would like to see, my personal opinion, I think I would like to see people in this age bracket be more towards Roth IRAs. Reason being, their incomes typically are not going to be that high in that age bracket. And, doing Roth IRAs makes a lot more sense at that age range. And so hopefully, some of the younger people that are in that age bracket will see this and be like, yeah, I probably should be doing Roth IRA, based off my income level, et cetera, et cetera. You shouldn't be so worried about taxes at that level. You should be more worried about your future growth. But all the people that are doing this are doing great things. Their accounts are going to blossom. And, we have end of year market value, $812 million. I'm sorry. Did I say that? Yeah, that's right. $812 million. I said that the right way. So 103,000 total Roth IRA accounts at this level, 812 million sitting inside of those accounts. That's pretty awesome. The average account size is $8,000. Pretty sweet. Look at this though. The average account size for under 15 is 14,000. Wonder what happened there. That's interesting. I would expect the average account size to be higher in this bracket, honestly, but probably means that some people at this age range are maybe getting to the party a little late, maybe, I don't know. So they don't have quite as much inside of their accounts, but at least they're starting. That's the key. At least they're starting, and so that's pretty awesome. You can go down the list here and just kind of see, what's in what. But as you can see, the older people are, the higher the value of the accounts. That's kind of interesting how it goes pretty much in line. So each age bracket, it's actually growing and growing and going, except for right here. For some reason, between that age, it took a little bit of a drop. But for the most part, it's actually working the way it should be working. And these accounts are growing as people are getting older, right? They're not, utilizing them too much, and they're actually there available. So $213 billion for those over 70. That's telling. All right. There's the chances of these people using all this money. Yeah, it might happen, but it may not happen either. So that's a lot of money that might ultimately get transferred. And that's what a lot of people are talking about with the baby boomers. As they're passing away, they're leaving a lot of money to their heirs. And so make sure you do some tax planning, estate planning, and figure that out and take care of yourself. Okay. But that's what I want to talk about on this tab. So interesting statistics there. I'm curious to know what everybody else thinks. And so there are people that are doing this. So when I say that you can do your Roth IRA to your kids under 18, there's people that are doing this. All right. It's not something that we're making up. It's absolutely allowed and absolutely legitimate. The IRS knows about it. They can't do anything about it because that's what the tax code says. So unless they change the tax code, it's a great strategy that's available. Okay. Now, let's talk about AGI. This is interesting. So the big debacle out there is that, the wealthy are taking too much advantage of Roth IRAs and IRA accounts. Well, look at this. Okay. The majority of these accounts are those between 100,000 and 500,000. So 500,000, as you might recall here, is just above the 400,000 mark that they're talking about, that they talk about a lot with Biden's tax plans and things like that that they're trying to push through Congress. So it's right in this wheelhouse, okay? The quote unquote middle class, if you want to call it that, okay? That's who has the majority of these accounts. So out of 365, oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing here, sorry. Out of 61 million accounts or taxpayers accounts, same thing, okay? 26 million of those are with those that make between 100,000 and 500,000 a year. And out of the $9 trillion that's sitting inside these accounts, 5 million is with those that make between 100 and 500,000 a year. So that kind of tells me that, you know, it's not really the wealthy. The wealthier people who make over $1 million a year down here, you know, they have some money in those accounts, but it's not nearly as much as what, you know, these other classes have in there. The majority of the money that's sitting in these IRA accounts is coming from what you would call kind of the middle class. Okay. You know, as we come down, obviously it's lower and lower. The lower the income, you know, but it just kind of shows you that people are, as they make more money, thinking about their retirements and putting some money into their retirements and good stuff like that. So still could be more, you know, I still wish it was more taxpayers that were doing it, but you know, at least we got some that are taking advantage of it. Okay. Roth conversions is another thing that, you know, Probublica and some other organizations have been coming after lately. Well, look at this. The majority of those conversions are not coming from this number down here, the million plus. All right. The majority are coming from, again, the people that are in that middle class category, $100,000 to $500,000 of income is where the majority of these Roth conversions are coming from. Okay. So it's kind of interesting that, you know, they're saying that this is kind of a loophole or whatever you want to call it. It's not a loophole. It's legitimate. It's something that a lot of people take advantage of, as you can see here. So it would hurt a lot of people if you were to do something about that. And it's just crazy that they're saying that it's just so unfair and it's so slanted when the data doesn't really support what they're saying. Okay. So, and you know what? I'm just going to do a little formula here real quick. Okay, so all I did is I just figured out the average based on the number of taxpayers. Okay, so overall, the average account size kind of looks like it's an upward trajectory. Let me try to make these numbers look a little better here. So the average account size, we're looking at, let's see, this is in thousands. So average account size is 489,000 for those over $1 million. Average account size. So the Peter Thiel example where he had a $5 billion Roth IRA, definitely a huge outlier. Most people are not in that situation. So to talk about changing laws and things like that for a few outliers that are actually over that threshold, it's just crazy to me. There's not that many people who have massive IRAs like that because unfortunately there's not that many people who have taken the time to try and get those massive IRAs. So hopefully we'll change that into the future. But as you can see here, this is showing that the average account size, you know, average is under $168,000, $270,000 for this group. So again, the overall majority appears to be not the wealthy, okay, that are doing a lot of this stuff. So it kind of debunks a lot of stuff that you're hearing out there. Is there anything else on this tab that I wanted to touch on? I think I hit everything that I want to hit. Now, I have one more statistic that I wanted to throw out here, and this is by plan type, okay? So plan type is what I wanted to throw out here. So as you can see, Roth IRAs are by far not nearly as big as the traditional IRA. So another kind of point that they were saying, oh, well, the rich are taking advantage of this Roth IRA, and there's a bunch of money sitting in the Roth IRAs and blah, 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 blah. That's incorrect. So out of all the IRA accounts, there's 846 billion sitting in Roth IRAs out of $9 trillion. That's less than 10%, as you can see from these calculations I did earlier. Less than 10% is actually sitting in Roth IRA accounts, which means the other 90.7% is sitting inside of taxable IRA accounts. So simple IRAs are taxable, SEP IRAs are taxable, and traditional IRAs are taxable. So the majority of the funds are sitting inside of taxable IRA accounts. Again, debunking what you heard, okay? So 846 billion Roth IRAs. Let's look at if the rich are taking advantage of this, you're basically telling me that everybody who's over $500,000 has their money sitting inside of a Roth IRA. That's incorrect. I can tell you that unequivocally. That's not a fair statement whatsoever. So no, it's not the case. As we saw from some of these other plans here. Okay, let's see here. Do I have a statistic that shows us? You know what? I don't have one. I don't have a statistics that shows us exactly how many are sitting in there. But if you think that everybody basically has their money sitting in Roth IRAs that's over this amount, that would be obviously a fallacy. So I think it's pretty spread out throughout all these income brackets. But kind of interesting that there's only 845 or 846 billion rounded sitting inside of Roth IRAs. Okay, so again, the outliers, Peter Thiel and some others, there's some outliers, but they're not the overwhelming majority of people who are taking advantage of these strategies, and the strategies are working, okay? So Roth conversions, you had 723,000 people who took advantage of Roth conversions, $14 billion worth of Roth conversions, okay? That's awesome. That's awesome. So to me, it makes sense. And a lot of lower income people, it makes sense to do Roth IRA conversions. Pay some taxes, have that growth, tax-free into the future. It makes a lot of sense. The Roths are becoming more and more popular, which is why I think, people are trying to come after it, but that's what it was intended for. And as you can see, there's not that many people who have Roths. So I say leave it alone. Now if it became where the majority was sitting in Roth IRAs, then I might see maybe a little bit of an argument for it. That's a lot of tax revenue that maybe is being lost. But I mean, it looks like the majority is sitting in traditional accounts, meaning there will be future tax revenue that comes off of that. Whether they do a conversion or whether they pay it when they retire, there will be future tax revenue. So again, the fallacies are just so far. Hopefully, you guys think for yourselves, and you don't let people tell you stuff that's incorrect. Misinformation is a word that's being used a lot lately. Well, I think a lot of stuff that's being said by Probublica is misinformation, and so I'm going to say that too. And hopefully you kind of take a look at some of these statistics. Again, go to irs.gov/statistics. Take a look for yourself. There's a lot more stuff than what I showed here. I don't want to waste all your time listening to me talk about all these statistics. If you liked this show and you want to kind of see some more statistics and kind of see a little bit more about what people are doing, let me know. I might do another video to talk about some other things besides the retirement accounts. But this is one that's been, really publicized recently, so I really wanted to touch on that one. But definitely an interesting topic, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. And I will definitely talk with you more at a later date. So hope everybody has a good one.